What are risky assumptions? You're probably thinking now, what are risky assumptions? And why do they matter to me? Let me tell you about a smart entrepreneur I knew. He had access to a tested, new and innovative technology to purify arsenic-heavy groundwater. He also had the wherewithal to implement this solution in villages and Tier 2 cities in India where it was needed the most. He also knew how to do it economically, and he had already implemented 2 successful pilots. Still, his startup folded after a couple of years. Do you know why? He assumed that the government-owned water supply board would welcome his solution with open arms, which, unfortunately, it didn't. This assumption was one amongst many others he had made, but it was by far the riskiest one. You may have made a series of assumptions about your business without validating most of them. The reason that it's important for you to take time out of your crazy, intense day and identify these risks and validate them is to avoid building a startup all around 1 or 2 key false assumptions that can be critical. As an investor, I'd ask you, what are the risks in your business? What are the things that keep you up at night? What about the things that you're concerned about? In doing so, I'm trying to find out where the really big risks are in your business. More importantly, I'm trying to find out how you think. Are you paying attention to your assumptions, testing them all along the way? Are you determining which ones are the most risky? Are you working through what to do about them? Just knowing about them is not enough. You have to de-risk them. Are you a good problem solver? Are you thinking of all the risks I'm thinking about? So, as an investor, I don't have to. It's important for investors to understand that you're framing the risks, looking at them, thinking about them, and working to mitigate them on a constant basis. Investors will feel much better about your business, and particularly your management team and style, when they know that you have the foresight and preparation to manage risks effectively. What are risky assumptions? There are many questions about your startup that you need to answer and address. Your ideas about the right answers to those questions are what we call assumptions. Without validating them, there's a risk that you're not as closely accurate as you think you are or that you assumed, and things can go wrong. That's a danger for you in your business. Because this turns out to be one of the bigger, yet less mentioned risks in a venture-backed startup, I want to not just give you answers, but a way of thinking about it. I know that this gets a little academic, but bear with me. Here's a graph that lets you understand assumptions in a more concrete way. To define assumptions, you need to first understand whether you're aware of something or unaware, crossed with whether you know something or you don't. Yeah, I know. Just look at the chart and it'll start to make sense. If you know something and you're aware that you know it, it goes in the top right block. This is knowledge. If you know something in your gut but can't quite put a name on it, it goes in the bottom right-hand block. That's intuition. If you don't know something and you're aware of not knowing it, it goes in the top left block. These are things you need to learn about. And finally, if you don't know that you don't know something, it goes in the bottom left block. That's simply being unaware. If an assumption is a fact or idea that you haven't proven yet, or you might be taking it for granted, that must mean they are assumptions that go into the upper right-hand block. This is the stuff you know. But the goal is to be able to prove it. The rest of the process is all about moving these bits of knowledge out of the other blocks. Say you're talking to a customer one day, and you have this sudden realization that you didn't even know there was another competitor in the market. Great news, you just had an insight. Then you need to learn about that competitor, and from there you can make assumptions. Remember that customer conversations lead to these insights. What is intuition? Intuition is what you have as a gut feeling, and this is quite common with entrepreneurs. It's going to be very important for you to be able to articulate the reason behind that instinct. For example, let's say that you look at a product design that your designer just spun up. Aha! I feel like this is going to work perfectly. This instinct reaction stems from your experience and your vision for the product. However, you need to take a step back and ask yourself why you think this design will work. What is so intriguing about it that looks so perfect? Will the customer have the same reaction as you that it's perfect? Once you're able to reflect on what triggers your response and articulate the reason for the trigger in relation to the actual customer, this becomes an assumption, and now you need to test it. Let's say it's because you think the gamification design in the app will increase customer engagement. That will stay as an assumption until you test it. When you make risky assumptions that you accept as truth, you may be risking your whole business. For those assumptions that you're making that are pivotal to your business, you need to be able to prove them to avoid that risk to your startup.